Hello and welcome back to another episode of Diablo to D&D. My name is David, and today we're going over the Paladin's Prayer Aura. But first, an update on the campaign. So, the Tainted Sun is a quest that completes just as soon as you get the Viper's Amulet from the Claw Viper Temple, but it completes just as soon as the Heraldric Staff does. So I really didn't want to have them go from level 4 to, or level 5 to level 7 in one quest. So what I'm doing is I am creating a new quest for them. So what I've come up with is that the Claw Viper Temple was just one of many temples that are powering this eclipse and plunging everything into darkness. And so they had to do a hex crawl to find the other temples. And they've really enjoyed it. I put Loot Ghislaine in the center and then some oases scattered around the edges of the map. And they had 3 days worth of rations, and then they could move around and spend some time investigating a hex and seeing if they could find the temple. Thankfully, somebody had proficiency in cartographer's tools and spent a day copying down maps and whatnot from the city, and essentially studying to see if they could find anything. So, because they spent about 100 gold on access and supplies, they were able to get advantage on all of their rolls because they'd actually studied the maps of the area. And they found the first one pretty quickly, and then spent the rest of the session wandering around the desert trying to find the other ones. And they managed to find, I think they got down to 5 out of like 15 hexes. And they finally found one of the last 2. I originally threw at that second temple just some claw vipers and some scarab demons. But this new one, I'm throwing 2 fang skins at them. Yes, I know he's a unique in the Claw Viper Temple, but I want to challenge them. And fang skin nearly TPK'd the party. So, yeah. The golem got sent in initially and was obliterated in the first round. So they're pulling back and regrouping and trying to figure out what they're going to be doing next. All right, let's take a look at the changelog. So the changelog, as I mentioned in last video, was all about stun, and I mentioned a handful of things. Bash and Concentrate now requiring strength in order to get the benefits of that ability. And then I also threw in the Barbarian's Weapon Mastery as well, just so that the class feels like a strength-based brute force subclass, right? Nothing else there, so let's get on to the video. So here we are at Prayer. This is actually a re-recording because I was less than happy with what I'd had before. So that's why you'll see this little section down here. I'm not too keen on it. I'm not going to get rid of it just yet, but I'm going to start back with what I had before and walk you through my thoughts of how I got here, and maybe if I might want to change it. All right, let's take a look at the original ability. Prayer. When active, the aura slowly regenerates the life of you and your party. It heals 2 points, I think, it's either per second or half second. I can't remember the tick on that. Has a decent radius, but it does require a mana cost. So prayer will slowly drain your mana, but heal you over time in an area. Given that Diablo doesn't have mana, I basically just ignored that part of it when coming up with the D&D version. But there is something to having a cost in order for regeneration. Speaking of the D&D adaptation, let's take a look at what the official adaptation says. Prayer. You spend a full round action to concentrate and cure 2 points of damage to yourself and each ally within 5 feet. And then let's take a look at what I've got here. Prayer. Every 10 minutes, a creature of your choice spends inside the aura. It regains 1 hit point as long as it was conscious for that time. The improvement at 18th level, the time reduces to 5 minutes, and whenever you choose your active aura, you may choose prayer and another aura. So the reason why the improvement is the ability to choose both prayer and another aura is because both cleansing and meditation gain the abilities of prayer without the mana drain. So if you dump a bunch of points into prayer, then cleansing and meditation will be empowered as well. And it's very handy when you have a support paladin, or when you have a prayer mercenary with a meditation polearm, because I think those stack. I'm not entirely sure. Now, as for every 10 minutes, the reason being was because resources. Technically, the 2 resources that are part of prayer is time and the reach of the aura. Because we don't have mana, there has to be a restriction on how good this ability is. I wanted it to feel like it is a healing over time, but without a pool of resources to draw from and having eventually reaching empty, then I had to put that time restriction so it's not terribly overpowered. Except it is terribly overpowered. Let me show you why. So it is every 10 minutes. So let's say an adventuring day is 24 hours. Subtract 8 for sleeping, unless everybody's an elf or something. So you have 16 hours multiplied by 6, because that's the 10-minute blocks of time. And you get 96 hit points per day of healing in an area just for the paladin themselves. So what that's doing is you're able to take a ton of hits. And yeah, sure, it'll take some time to get back to full. But this doesn't take items. It's not potions. It's not very good in combat. So I guess it's some sort of balanced. But it trades off this power of healing over time for a lot of bookkeeping and a lot of questions. Because what happens if somebody leaves and then comes back? Does the timer reset? Does that mean that everybody else is desynced? It's just a bunch more questions that aren't really fun to keep track of. So I decided I really need to change this. I wanted to take a look at some of the other things that could be useful to draw inspiration from. So in the spell list, I pulled up all the spells that have the healing tag. And starting off with Spare the Dying, you touch a living creature that has 0 hit points, the creature becomes stable. It doesn't really do what I want because it's not healing. It doesn't restore hit points, especially not over time. It just stabilizes. I put that restriction of you have to be conscious specifically so that prayer does not negate death saving throws. Granted, actually, you know what? That is really interesting. So I had originally thought, I don't want it to negate death saving throws, but you're looking at most 5 rounds, which is only 30 seconds. That's not enough time to get in 1 point of healing. So maybe it could bring somebody back from 0. Anyway, I like the way that it is, but let's just move on. So here we are at Goodberry. This is about as cheap a healing spell as you can get. It's just Lambus Bread, the spell. You get 10 berries that restore 1 hit point apiece, and the berry provides enough nourishment to sustain a creature for 1 day. It's not damage over time, or it's not healing over time, but it does kind of have that mass heal feeling. And it does have a limit, essentially a pool of 10 berries. So there's something to pull from there. But let's see if there's anything else. Aura of Vitality. It is an aura that sticks with you as you move around, but it costs a bonus action to cause one creature in the area to regain 2d6 hit points. So you essentially have 10 bonus actions of 2d6 hit points. While it is an aura and it does have some kind of resource to restrict its usages, I'm not keen on it because prayer is everybody regains a little bit over time instead of one massive healing thing. Aura of Life. It's another aura, and it kind of works, but it does have this line here. In addition, non-hostile living creature regains 1 hit point when it starts its turn in the aura with 0 hit points. I don't want prayer to negate death saving throws. So I'm not really keen on Aura of Life. I'm just kind of bringing it up because, people could mention it as a possibility, and I recognize it, but I'm going to pass on it. Now, something that I had just realized is Regenerate has a healing over time that I completely forgot about it. I was discussing this with one of my players /DM, and he was considering picking it up for his bard in a different campaign. And look at this. It's a duration of 1 hour. For the duration of the spell, the target regains 1 hit point at the start of each of its turns, or 10 points per minute. So it heals a ton. Granted, it's, 7th level spell, so it should. But this is a healing over time ability. So if prayer had some kind of activation clause, not keen on it, but some kind of activation clause, I guess it could be somewhat useful, like you're empowering it and it could heal over time in combat. Maybe. I mean, no other aura has an action to do something or a bonus action to do something. So I don't really like it, but maybe there's something there, something like when a creature is damaged in the aura, they regain so many hit points as long as they're in the aura. That might be something to think on, but I'll just keep moving on. Mass Heal. Flood of energy flows from you into injured enemies around you. So this is a 9th level spell, and you get to heal 700 hit points divided as you choose among any number of creatures. So I really, really like this because it does have that massive hit point pool. I mean, it's a 9th level spell, so 700 hit points is quite a bit. But the thing I really like about it is it feels kind of like what I want to do. The only difference is it's not over time. But there are different things. You can mash some of these things together, is that you have a pool of so many hit points that you can distribute around in the aura. Well, spells aren't the only things that have healing, but some class features do as well. So let's take a look at those. So, of course, the first thing that people think of when you mention healing is the cleric. And, of course, here's the life cleric. Disciple of Life is very nice. It empowers your healing spells, but it's the channel divinity that I really do like. It's very much like the Diablo prayer, that you spend action economy and you heal a number of hit points in an area. It's got that action. I don't like that action thing, but it is something to think of. But let's move on. The fighter, interestingly enough, has that second wind. The thing that I could pull from here is that short or long rest before you can use it again. Restricting the amount that can be healed is something that could be used. Maybe the paladin can only heal a certain amount per day, or maybe a player can only be healed a certain amount per day. Maybe it should be just while you're resting that you get a certain number of hit points. That might be interesting. But let's move on. The monk, kind of secondarily to the cleric, the Way of Mercy monk, I really do like this one, is that you can spend a key point to touch a creature and restore a number of hit points. But you can also use your flurry of blows, replace one of the unarmed strikes with the Hand of Healing feature, and hit someone and heal them. I mean, I'm just kind of pointing out here, all of these in some way require a resource, a channel divinity, key points, something. Here we have the D&D Paladin, and this is kind of what I was drawing from in the first iteration of their prayer rework, is that having a number of points, and here it says hit points, but I just take a look at it. But you have a number of points that you can spend and heal. Rather than burning spell slots, you have this healing pool. The only difference is, one, this is single target rather than an area, and you can spend 5 hit points from the pool to cure disease or poison. And given that the prayer aura is just healing, I don't think that's literally just cleansing, right? That's the cleansing aura. So let's take a look at the next one. The Sorcerer, Divine Soul Sorcerer. This one is very different. It's much like the Life Cleric's, I can't remember what the thing is called, but it empowers healing. I mean, it's called empowered healing, but it makes healing a little bit more effective rather than spending resources in additional healing. You burn a sorcery point and can re-roll dice that are used in healing. Interestingly enough, this is a passive ability, kind of. It doesn't take up action economy. There's no reaction. It just happens. And I do like that. But I think there's one more healing ability. Yes, the Celestial Warlock, Healing Light. You have a pool of d6s that you can use to heal people. And the thing I like about this is there's that pool of d6s, kind of like the pool of the Paladin's Lay on Hands. But something I pulled from this is the maximum number of dice you can spend at once. So you can heal a chunk of health at one time, but you're restricted by your stats. Now, I guess something that could be pulled from here is, instead of spending dice or points or hit points or whatever on a single creature, maybe it could be distributed in that area. So instead, prayer is like you have a pool of d4s or so many points, and then you can spend those points and choose a number of creatures equal to your charisma or your proficiency bonus, and they all regain hit points. That might be something. But let's head back to the main page and see if there's anything I could tweak. So here we are back at prayer, and let's see if I can lay out exactly what I'm trying to fix here. So firstly, I'd like to reduce bookkeeping. Having that time is really, really difficult because, like I said, what happens if somebody leaves and then comes back? Secondly, I might want to add a resource that puts a cap on how useful it is, or it puts a limit to how much healing you can get out of it in a day. Other than that, I think that's really the only two things that need to be changed, is putting that cap on it and making sure that it's usable without a ton of thought being put into it. So how would I change this? So what I'd done with the first recording was you gain a pool of points to power your aura. This pool is equal to your paladin level times 5. The points fully restore on a long rest. Once during your turn, no action required by you, you can expend any number of points from your pool up to your proficiency bonus, and each creature of your choice within the aura regains that many hit points. Creature must be conscious in order to be healed. I don't like this. It doesn't feel like prayer to me. You know what? I'm just going to get rid of this right here. And maybe the only fix is adding a restriction to who can benefit from it. You know what? Let's take a look at short rests. So resting, if prayer is a an aura that is outside of combat and designed around resting, that might help. So short rests, a period of downtime at least 1 hour long, during which a character does nothing more strenuous than eating, drinking, reading, and tending to wounds. And then, of course, these characters can spend hit dice and regain hit points in bigger bursts of healing. Long rests, I don't think I'm going to worry about that one. I think I'm just going to go with the focus on the short rest here. So the thing I like, if I add a restriction of this doing nothing more strenuous than eating, drinking, reading, and tending to wounds, then essentially you get 6 additional hit points on a short rest. And I think that is really, really nice. So let me see if I can add something. Okay. I just basically copied and pasted the restrictions for that short rest on there. So this way, it feels like prayer. But it doesn't scale. This is something that is good in lower levels. So it looked like level 1 to level 6, where it just kind of feels like you're a lot squishier, you don't have a lot of resources. I want it to be useful in higher levels, but that also means that if it scales too high in the early game, it's overpowered. If it scales too low in the early game, you don't want to pick it. Actually, you know what? Let me see. Let's take a look at some of the other auras, because I'm looking at... Okay, starting at 1st level and then again at 7th and 15th levels. So yeah, if you get something like Blessed Aim, which could potentially deal more damage so that you're taking less damage. Concentration at 7th level to remove disadvantage on weapon attacks, dealing more damage and whatnot. You know, I think that's it. I think that's actually it. Is that this is designed to be an aura that is outside of combat. So it does have the bookkeeping issue, but it kind of does reduce bookkeeping because if you're traveling, then you don't get the benefit. So I'm going to say that this is enough. And it feels kind of weird to say this because I don't know if I'll be revisiting. I probably will be revisiting this. But sometimes the simplest fixes are just the ones that are right in front of you the entire time. Oh, you know what it could be? You know what it could be? Is half your proficiency rounded down. Because that way your proficiency, it goes 1 point from level 1 to level 8. And then 2 points from level 9 to level 16. And then 3 points from 17, 18, 19, 20. So that might be it. Let me take a look at that, see how it feels. Every 10 minutes a creature of your choice spends inside the aura, it regains hit points equal to half your proficiency bonus rounded down, as long as it was conscious for that time, doing nothing more strenuous than eating, drinking, reading, or tending to wounds. And then at 18th level, the time reduces to 5 minutes. So you'd get let's see, you'd get 6 points, then you'd get 12 points, then you'd get 18 points. And then you'd get 36 points. I don't like that. So I'm going to remove this section right here and just say that whenever you choose your active aura, you may choose prayer and another aura. And I think I'm going to remove this note as well. And I'm going to declare that as fixed. Oh boy. So hopefully this is going to be a shorter one. I think this is going to be it. And hopefully hopefully this will work. So it's powered up, but it's also powered down. So maybe it's balanced, maybe it's not. Either way, let me know. Drop a comment. Hit me up on Twitter or Reddit or YouTube. All right, I think that's going to be it for me. Thank you much for watching. You can contact me at XenozFan2, that is XenozFan2 on Twitter and Reddit. And you can contact the channel at Diablo TODND on Twitter and YouTube. And thank you much for watching. And I will see you in the next one. Have a good whatever.